So we are a reading panel, so I am going to open the floor to our first reader, Jane Walsh. Jane, if you want to introduce yourself and your book, and you can start reading whenever you're ready. And Karis and I will turn our videos off.
So my name is Jane Walsh. I'm a queer Regency romance writer, so I write historicals that are set in the early 19th century England. What this means for you is that if you liked watching Bridgerton and you're super excited about the upcoming Sapphic season, I think you should check out my books. I have 8 of them now. My most recent one is The Debutante Dilemma, which I'll be reading from today. So this came out a few months ago, January 2026, and it follows 2 debutantes through their first London society season. And their relationship develops after they become engaged to twin brothers. So it's a little bit soapy, it's a little bit fun, and I really hope you enjoy it. Okay. Just one moment. When Emily thought about last night's kiss, she burned. She attributed some of the heat in her cheeks to shame. Panic twisted her insides as she stared at the pristine white paint of her bedchamber ceiling. What if she and Rebecca had been seen from the drawing room window? She could hardly believe that they had ended up in a passionate embrace. How would her fiancé react if he found out? What would her father do? It was unthinkable. But what was even more unthinkable was that she burned with lust. Emily, who had never before known a single pang of desire, found herself ravaged by such carnal fever that she could think of nothing else for an entire day after her lips had touched Rebecca's. She could not bring herself to leave her bedchamber. She did not dress. She waved away her maid when she hovered at her door and accepted only tea when her throat grew dry. Who could think of physical sustenance when her mind was filled with the ephemeral? How could she step a toe into polite society when such shocking passion might beset her body at any given moment? The frustrations of her fellow debutantes suddenly seemed sensible. They had longed to be held closer by their suitors while dancing, pleading to anyone who might listen for permission to waltz. All that yearning to be held a few inches closer to one's dance partner had seemed silly to her. But oh, if it could be Rebecca to hold her close and whirl her around a ballroom, how she would have begged. Kissing Miss Rebecca Tremblay had been transcendent and wonderful, but Emily didn't know herself anymore, and she trusted herself even less. What if such feelings had been dormant her whole life and would now be unleashed no matter who she saw? She would be mortified if she were to dissolve with desire while dining with Miss Flora or Miss Diana. But sensible Miss Flora did not have Rebecca's charmingly frank speech. And Miss Diana, though lovely, did not have eyes that sparkled like the stars or hair as soft as a kitten. Only an exuberant American could transfix her. At the next social engagement, the debutantes welcomed Emily into their fold, not knowing she was now a lost sheep. There was nothing to fear in the face of dozens of pretty eyes and laughing pink lips and fetching hairstyles. Remarks about her appearances were limited to the color of her dress and the pattern on her reticule, and certainly not any change in manner or behavior. Rebecca watched Emily from beneath the brim of her bonnet. Emily gripped her parasol so tightly that it was a wonder she did not break the delicate wood handle. She wore a gossamer silk shawl around her shoulders for no other reason than it was elegant, given that it could provide no protection from the sun or warmth from its sheerness. Her morning dress was the color of the sunrise from a ship's prow, pale gold and full of hope for a new day. "Are you well?" Rebecca asked Emily as they fell into step. "I am unchanged," Emily insisted, her tone holding the hint of a threat. Rebecca smiled. "Are you indeed?" "Oh, damn it all. Is it so evident?" Emily pressed a hand to her throat as if checking for her pulse. "I thought my feelings were well guarded." "I've always considered you to be relentlessly constrained." "Thank you. But that was before." Emily lowered her parasol to better shield them from view. "Now I do not know myself." "Perhaps you know yourself rather better than you did." "But I'm a debutante." "Maybe you're something more." "Oh, Rebecca, how is one to live with these feelings? She moved her gloved fist to cover her heart. When I look at you, I am undone. Rebecca wasn't sure if Emily's agitation was because she liked such feelings, or if it was because she did not. Could she have mistaken the longing in Emily's eyes the night that they had kissed? Have you never been attracted to a woman before? Rebecca asked. Never, Emily cried, her face white. Never to anyone at all. I have never felt so bewitched in all my life. What's no enchantment? Then why am I so enchanted? Emily's voice was no more than a whisper. Her teeth caught at her lip, and her brow was low across eyes that were wider than the Thames, with depths that Rebecca wished she could sink into. Her hair was not in tight ringlets today, but fell in soft golden curls that touched her shoulders. Gone was her reserve and her cold exterior. In its place was a warm, vibrant woman, and yet a very distressed one. Rebecca glanced around them. She knew Emily would not want to be seen in such a state. She took her hand and guided her down a winding path away from the gardens, and finally found a bench secluded beyond a hedgerow. Rebecca sat down and tugged Emily next to her. I have thought of little else than our kiss. This is all so new to me, but have you ever felt this way before? Now we're talking about secrets again. It was difficult for Rebecca to admit it. Here was the root of her parents' displeasure. The seeds had been sown from her own misdeeds, and in their eyes, it could never be uprooted. What happened? I had an indiscretion. Emily's lips parted. With another woman? With another woman, Rebecca confirmed. Mother found us kissing in a park. We were not discreet. Before the week was done, I was whisked away to New York. It became a family mission to find a husband for me in order to eradicate such terrible tendencies. In the end, they had to fund a husband for me instead, and now here I am, engaged to the murderous Marquess. Did you think such tendencies were so terrible? Emily's voice quavered. I did not, and I do not now. Promise me that we are not the only ones to ever feel this way. It seems impossible to think that God created so few like ourselves, Rebecca said slowly. We cannot be so unique. I already feel so alone. I cannot bear to endure such longing and solitude. Emily's eyes were rimmed with tears. You are not alone. Not as long as I am here. Rebecca brushed a curl from Emily's heart-shaped face, then took the flower she had plucked earlier and tucked it into her reticule so that the bloom was peeking out. The dukedom might think me a weed invading their garden, but I will struggle to thrive in it as long as you're planted there too. Thank you very much.
Ah, I love it. It is so soapy.
Lots of soap opera moments in here. The murderous Marquess. Does he get his comeuppance? You'll have to find out more if you pick up the book.
It's awesome. I feel like you need that like Days of Our Lives music or something in
I
the
was
background.
hooked on Days when I was younger. That's definitely my go-to.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alrighty, next up, we have Jenna Jarvis.
Um, yeah, Jenna, author from Scotland, and I've got my book Write It Out here. It's my second of my contemporary romances. I also write epic fantasy stories, but I do like writing a bit of romance that has less dragons in it from time to time. And this one is about uh, two friends, though originally not very friendly, called Mick and Katie, and they end up having to live together through the pandemic and become much closer. And this is a wee section about Mick attending a wee bachelorette party, finally spending time with someone who isn't Katie and realizing what it is that she feels. Um, since she was keeping herself as sober as she could for her long drive in the morning, Mick was the last one left up after most of Zoe's guests had made their way inside to find oblivion. The house that Amber had found on some rental website had a large balcony at the top, and after making themselves tea, Zoe and Mick sat together staring at the stars. Though nowhere they'd ever lived together had been blessed with a balcony, it felt temptingly like old times. Everyone had fun, right? Zoe asked. Her legs was still bouncing to the music no one had turned off yet. Not sure I'm the best person to ask, but sure. Nothing lulled, nobody caused drama, everybody seemed to get along. I'm sure you're the best to ask. You're the best person to ask about everything. Mick smiled slowly. You drank vodka. Leaning her head in her hands, Zoe's whole frame seemed to droop in the relief of taking the party off her back, of being understood as too drunk to handle anything more. I drank so much vodka. As she reached to take her hand, Meg leaned back in her chair, wondering how long it would be until she could again be this casually close to Zoe. And it warmed her all over. But the ache it caused was more of a memory now. The bothering of an open wound that had become the light stroke of a scar. Did you have fun? That's kind of the most important part. Tonight was beautiful. I haven't seen so many people I love in one place in a long time. I felt like a princess. She sat up a little. But I miss my man. Sorry, simp behavior. You are allowed. You are literally marrying him. I am. I never thought I'd find this, and definitely not with a guy, you know? I know. He's so good. I'm glad he treats you right. Zoe frowned, seeming finally to notice who was speaking to her. I want that for you. What, a good man to straighten me out? No, I want you to trust someone to look after you. She smiled faintly. Part of me, I guess I just wish it could have been me. Every vein in Mike's body seemed to turn to ice. Zoe. Waving her away, Zoe shook her head. But you didn't even trust me to do the vacuuming, right? Mick felt some tension release. You never move anything. You can't just go around every object when you clean. All I mean is, I worry about you. This girl you're living with, is she okay to live with? She vacuums fine. Ha. Are you holding up okay there in the middle of nowhere? She frowned. Because you know you always have my couch, right? Like, I know you like your own space, but we'd make some. It's not so bad. I'm helping save a movie theater. Leaning away a little, Mick fished into her shirt pocket for her cigarettes and her lighter. And I started taking pictures again. You know, most serial killers are from the Midwest. Where'd you hear that? Podcast. So, wait, the theater your roommate works in? Yeah. Her thumb clicking with the effort, Mick made her old lighter light up again. Not really a big enough town for two. So you're out there, living in the old man's place, watching his movies, being all cute and depressed, and getting paid way less than you're worth now. As Mick tried to interrupt with her issues on perceived worth under capitalism, partly inspired from late night talks with a very impassioned Katie, Zoe continued. But you're staying for her, right? No. No? I think I'm. She paused. I think it's more like I'm still here because of her. In a contemplating ideation type way? She waved her hand lightly, but her eyes were filled with flattering concern. Speaking clinically. Not really. I'm not sure how I would have made it through all this, she said, gesturing at the world at large, making her cigarette trail smoke through the warm night air. The music blasting inside switched to something louder, and she had a sudden sense of belonging to the world again. But even if she wasn't ready for it, and it wasn't and maybe wouldn't ever be back to normal, the door was open to it now. She had sat with her best friend on a balcony that didn't belong to them, listened to someone else's playlist mingle with the night air. Not without her with me. So you feel like you owe it to her to help save the theater. Not owe, just the world's knocked her down so many times in the last few years, and she goes around like she's this ray of fucking sunshine, acting like she doesn't even notice. And she deserves a win. Are you the win? Mick dropped her hand. Ha. Zoe knocked a shoulder into her arm, playful now. Well, I'm glad you've got someone. Her eyes turned wicked as they regarded Mick side on. Have you slept with her? Well, not since we moved in together. If it bothers Zoe that Mick hadn't mentioned it without prompting, she didn't show it. Like it was bad or it was important. Mick wet her lips, letting herself remember for a moment the way Katie had looked at her before starting to fuck her slow, like she wasn't even sure she was real. Not like it was bad. Well, just don't let your mum being around get in your head, okay? I didn't tell you she was around. Yeah, and you don't have to tell me shit. I know you. She smiled, the low light from next door's porch being kind to her failing makeup, her shaky expression. Even if you think you're some strange, mysterious being no one could ever work out. Um, smooth.
Oh, we all want to be strange, mysterious beings nobody can work out. But we
The
all
dream.
also want to be known, right? So I think that's a perfect way to have both. Thank you so much.
Exactly.
Next up, we have Jenny Frame, and Jenny cannot be with us, but she has provided a recording that I am going to play by sharing my screen with you.
Hi everyone, my name's Jenny Frame, and I'm going to be reading to you an excerpt from my latest book, Secrets of the Heart. In this scene, Nikki Sharkey is getting ready for a night out at one of her nightclubs and thinking about an encounter with one of her new staff members, Logan Power. Isla and Daisy sat on the end of Nikki's bed and watched Nikki put on her makeup. Are you going to the club, Mum? Yes, I am. You're going to have a great night with Granny, Granda, and Auntie Mary. Logan works there now. I like her. Nikki was concentrating on putting on her mascara and almost didn't register what Isla had said. Nikki turned around slightly. You do? Isla nodded enthusiastically. She's tall like a giant. Nikki smiled. She's quite tall for a woman. I don't think anyone could beat her at boxing, Isla said. Logan did have a tall, imposing figure and had such a strong body that Nikki had struggled to keep it out of her head. She was taller than average too, but didn't have the same physique as Logan. She shivered at the thought. Honey, will you go and get me my drinking bottle? It's on the kitchen table. Uh-huh. When she was alone, Nikki gazed at herself in the mirror and remembered Logan looking deep into her eyes. She felt naked in her gaze, like she couldn't hide any feelings she would wish to keep private. Nikki had been stripped bare. Logan was right about her getting bored of her date Alex already. It wasn't Alex's fault. Nikki now realised that she'd been bored with most of her dates for a long time now. She just didn't realise it until she compared them to the deep, hungry connection she'd made with Logan. If there had been no one else there at the club when they were both having their intense conversation, Nikki was sure they would have kissed. And she didn't like the feeling of being out of control. Control was what kept her and her family safe. Nikki supposed it was petulant to bring along a date to the club so Logan would see that she'd been wrong about her, but she wanted to get some of that control back. Here you go, Mum. Nikki took the bottle and a sip of cool water and carried on with her makeup. Logan said she'd show me how to box, Isla said. Nikki shook her head. You don't need to know how to box. You have Eddie and all our family guards to protect you. It's just for fun, Mum. Logan is fun, like Mac. Mac had a special relationship with Isla. They did all the things that Nikki would say no to. They were always up to mischief. Isla really missed her while she was on her honeymoon. Normally, Nikki didn't let a newcomer be so up close and personal with Isla, but it had all happened when she was having a private conversation with Jay, and under supervision of Annie and Eddie. What did you and Logan talk about? Nikki was interested to know. Isla stroked her dog on the head. I told her about Daisy, about service dogs, about how Labradoodles were bred. That sounded like her daughter. If she felt comfortable with someone, she would give that person an info dump of facts, whether they liked it or not. It was sweet. What did she say to you? Nicky asked. She told me about boxing, and I asked her how tall she was, and about Mac and Auntie Flora being in Japan. Did she ask anything about me, about Mum's businesses? Nicky asked. She wanted to know if this person who turned up in their life was a plant or a police officer. Isla shook her head. No, that's all. Then we went and played ball with Daisy and Eddie. The doorbell rang. That'll be your granda. Isla and Daisy ran out of the bedroom. Nicky never had to worry about who was at the door, as nobody got past the monitors and guards in the security room. Nicky stood up and tightened the knot on her silk dressing gown. She walked out of the living room to find Isla getting a big hug from her granda. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you enjoy all the rest of the readings. Cheers.
And that was Jenny Frame. And I think a lot of us can relate to when you're comfortable with someone, you info dump. I know I have been guilty of that. Alrighty, and last up we have Karis Walsh. Hello, good to see you. We have been running Karis hard today. She's been on a lot of our panels. Thank you so much for hanging in there.
Oh, it's been wonderful. A lot of fun. Absolutely.
So, please tell us about your book and start whenever you're ready.
Oh, okay. I'm reading from Love Takes a Village. It's my book from December. And it's about Lena, who is a reluctant new chef in town at her aunt's restaurant, a German restaurant. And Devin, whose family owns a multi-generational candy shop in town. And Leavenworth is a little Christmas village, so it's super busy during the holiday season. And both of these women have a lot going on kind of emotionally with family, and Devin's family is selling the business and she's not sure how she feels about that. And Lena is just in this situation where she's just completely unprepared to be doing what she's doing. And even in spite of that, they see each other, they meet each other, and then they just really see who this other person is. They're able to look past their own situations and see each other. And that's kind of set in the very beginning and this is what I'm reading from, is their first meeting. And I think it kind of comes out that, and Lena's doing all this, but she says, oh, wow, Devin, she notices how talented she is. And Devin notices how positive and capable Lena is, even though she's not able to completely feel it right now. And I also picked this because I think sometimes having someone see you and know you well enough to be able to know what to feed you when you're stressed is a kind of nice thing. So let me go ahead and read from this. By the time her dad popped his head in the door and said he was going to get them coffee, asking her to listen for the bell on the front door in case customers came in, Devin had fully assembled the cake and the decorations on top of it. A marbled white and dark chocolate mountain and base formed the backdrop for trees and deer. She had dusted them with confectioner sugar to give a snowy effect, and the chopped hazelnuts looked like rocks on the mountain slope. She put the rest of her supplies away before she wiped an errant drop of ganache off the glass plate she had used as a base and slowly picked up her heavy creation, backing through the swinging door and into the main area of the shop just as the bell above the front door chimed. She swore under her breath as she startled a little, pausing to get her balance back before stepping into the showroom and letting the door swing closed behind her as she turned to greet the customer. Devin knew everyone in town by sight and would have recognized this woman as a tourist, even without the Tyrolean hat, as a clue. Instead of looking silly in it, though, she looked adorable. Her golden hair fell in a soft wave over her left cheekbone, and her eyes were a perfect blend of all the mossy greens and rich browns of a hike through a forest. There was something warm and silky about her, calling to mind Devin's favorite honey almond nougats dripping with milk chocolate. Wow, said the woman, echoing Devin's thoughts. Unfortunately, she wasn't exactly looking at Devin when she said it. Are you talking about me or the cake? Devin asked wryly. easing the cake in its glass base into a cardboard box. What? Oh, both. I mean, you, of course. You're really, She stuttered to a stop and then grinned, her eyes crinkling in the corners. The good-humored smile seemed natural to her. You have beautiful eyes, she offered. Yes, and you were looking about a foot south of them when you said, wow, Devon said, giving in and laughing with her. Her ego might have been more bruised if she hadn't been so proud of the cake. Besides, she had been thrown off guard by her immediate physical reaction to the woman, and she was glad to have some humor bring her back down to earth. She was here to sell chocolate, after all, not to drool over a tourist who would be gone in a day or two. Sorry, the woman said sheepishly. I haven't eaten all day and that cake looks delicious. She looked around the shop at all the trays of multicolored and delicately shaped confections. Everything looks amazing in here. Do you make all these candies yourself? My dad and I make everything by hand, Devon said. She couldn't resist plucking one of the honey nougats out of the case. Here, try a sample. The woman took the treat from her with slender fingers that trailed a ghost of warmth along Devon's palm and popped it in her mouth. Devon smiled at her expression. She might get tired of working in the shop after so many holiday seasons, but she never got tired of seeing the looks on people's faces when they tasted a Myers chocolate for the first time, especially if they were accustomed to only store-bought bars wrapped in foil and paper. The woman closed her eyes as she chewed. Oh my God, I love you, she said after she swallowed. She opened her eyes again and grinned at Devon. Okay, I was talking to the chocolate that time too. Beautiful and charming, dangerous. Time to get her out of the shop. Devon wiped her hands on her apron and belatedly realized she was still wearing one of her chocolate-smeared white ones instead of the official blue one. Oh well, she was behind the cases with all those distracting chocolates between them. The woman probably wouldn't even notice her enough to see what she was wearing. What can I get for you, she asked. Oh, I really didn't come in to buy anything, she said. She scanned the case again with a sigh. But I'll take a dozen of anything. Pick your favorites. I'm Lena, by the way, I'm the new head chef at House Bavaria. She fell silent, biting her lip, her smile fading away. Devon got a box and made her selections on autopilot without really needing to think about what she was choosing. So she wasn't a tourist and she'd be here all season? Devon was a little uneasy about that, but Lena looked even more upset about it than she was. Lena sighed. I'm new at this, she said, trying to smile, but it didn't have any of the naturalness as before. We need someone to make desserts, and my aunt, she owns the restaurant, suggested I talk to you about making something for us. Or 2 or 3 somethings per night, I guess. Devon managed to keep her groan inward and not audible, although she doubted Lena would have noticed. She seemed locked in some internal struggle about this restaurant. Almost without thinking, Devon handed her another piece of dark chocolate-covered candy. Kirsch and coconut, she said, giving herself time to think while Lena ate. Oh, thank you, Lena said. That really helped.
Awesome. That was great. I just put in the chat that knowing what to feed someone when they're stressed is one of the best ways that you can know someone. I know that. I would greatly appreciate that. And I think that's adorable. Thank you, Karis.
Thank you.
If everyone wants to jump back on, we have time for questions.
I just want to say, it's not fair to read a whole section about such delicious chocolate and not warn me in advance. I have no chocolate in my house, and I really want some now.
At least I'm not holding up pieces of candy to make you even more.
That would have been amazing if you'd had props, but I would have been so jealous.
That would be great. All right. Well, hey, since Karis has put us in the mood, I didn't ask a lightning round question, which I should have done in the beginning. So let's ask it now. And that is, do you have writing snacks? Is there something you like to munch on when you're writing? Are you a writing snack writer? We'll start with Karis.
I usually get, like, when I'm toward the end, my stress eating is peanut M&Ms. And I have to eat them in order of color, so.
Nice. Okay, I like that. Jane?
I usually have tea or decaf coffee when I'm writing. If I'm writing in the evenings, if it's in the morning, then it's like a regular coffee, but my writing time is in the evenings. Snacks, I used to be a big snacker when I was writing. And then I realized it was just another form of procrastination because if you're snacking, you're not typing. And
Mm,
sometimes you only have so much time in a day. So like I would sit down, the cat would jump on my lap, so that's 10 minutes gone right there. I gotta pay attention to the cat. Like, oh, I'm thinking about the story though. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna start in a minute. Then the cat goes away. I've got my tea, I've got like my little snack. Oh yeah, like I'm thinking away though. I'm thinking away. And then before you know it, like your hour's up and you gotta go. So I limit it to drinks now.
okay. All right. I feel like the same would apply to drinks, but you've cut out half the problem. So that's definitely progress.
Right.
And Jenna, how about you?
I think I've got a similar way of thinking about it to Jane in that it does feel like procrastination. Beverages, even if there's like three or four of them around, it feels like there's only so long you can hold one before uh yeah, you're just sitting there with a mug. Whereas it's more active to have your hand in a bag all the time. Then you need to go wash your hands if it's something sticky or something oily or something like that. Although someone did tell me they have started eating Doritos with chopsticks at their desk just so that they don't feel like they need to get up again and wash their hands, which I do kind of has stuck in my brain as like a thing I might start doing if I do happen to be snacking.
Game changer.
That is dedicated. That is like, yeah, interesting.
It's ingenuity.
For sure. Okay, so this panel is all about characters being seen, affirmed, and understood. So I would like to know, pick one of your characters, and what do they most want the other one to know about them? Give you a minute to think. I'm going to pick on Jenna first.
Yeah, I think my Mick, who I was just doing the reading about more, I think she does have a sort of fear that people have started to see her as someone who isn't very knowable and not necessarily very open or caring. And she's not quite an ice queen, but she does need to break down the sort of facade that she's giving out to the world. So I think what I have fun with at the start of the book is that Katie does originally not know her from the start and really does kind of go, you seem very intimidating and very kind of mean.
Yeah.
And having someone tell her that is important. And then it becomes quite important to her that Katie does understand that she is a caring person who has interests and is nice and is funny and cares about people, because I think it's the sort of snap realization that she needs to be like, oh, that's how I'm coming across to the world. And you're the last person I want to think that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people have that mask, right?
Yeah.
Especially, in certain contexts, especially like professional or with certain people, you have a mask, and then the one who truly gets you can see behind it. So awesome. Jane, what about you? What would one of your characters love the other one to know about them?
Well, so my character's Louise, not Louise, sorry, that's my other book, Seducing the Widow, which I have right here. But my characters in this book, The Debutante Dilemma, Emily and Rebecca. Emily is a kind of, she's not cold, but she very much wants to be the perfect debutante. She wants to be the perfect society belle and doing everything right and everything by the book and have everything work out for her. And Rebecca is more free-spirited, says what she feels, like wears her heart on her sleeve. And she's often looked at by other people in society as kind of gauche and unmannered. Like she's like this, uh, rude American who comes in, doesn't know like all the societal niceties. And I think what Emily would really like Rebecca to know is that Emily might feel like she doesn't quite belong, like even though she has this perfect persona, that she herself doesn't feel necessarily that she belongs to this world, and that she doesn't look down on Rebecca for not quite belonging either. Like she might not endorse some of those behaviors, but she isn't judging her for them. So I think she'd want Rebecca to know that she can be open-minded if she's pushed.
I like that one. Interesting. It's interesting. Our theme is like, I appear this way, but I'm actually not, kind of seeing under the under the facade there for both of you. Awesome. Karis, how about you? What would one of your characters love the other one to know?
I think Devin has fought against the expectation that she would take over her family's business. And she decided not to. She went to Seattle. She moved away, even though she still comes back. And she always says that it was her dad's passion and everyone else's passion, but she just knows how to make candy. She's just made candy all her life. And Lena sees her when she's sharing her candy or her chocolates with people, when she's teaching these young girls that work for them how to make desserts, or when she's sharing the food that she's made with people. And Lena sees her passion for it. We're not sure what direction it will go, but Lena sees that, and Devin takes a while to acknowledge it's just what I do kind of thing, but it is a true passion, and Lena sees that. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Lovely. We have a question in the chat from Claire. How does your character make themselves seen without appearing desperate for attention? I think it can often translate into desperation or anxiety or look at me, look at me, look at me. So how do you balance that as a writer, letting your character being open to being seen and understood, but not coming across with that sense of desperation? Jane?
I think the desperation often comes if the character is hasty to want the other character to really see them and affirm them, like before the relationship really merits it. If you're far enough along in the relationship and there's a lot of groundwork that you've done to show the characters connecting on the page, then it's not going to come across as needy. If you're like 3/4 of the way through and somebody says like, oh, but like, what did you really think of, X and Y that I did? It's just going to come across as, you want to get to know the person more and you want their feedback, but you're not desperate. Where if you have a character on page 2 being like, so like, what do you think of me? Like it's a little too abrupt. And so if you haven't kind of done the legwork, then to me, like that's where it can come up across as desperate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I think it would make a really interesting character if you created one like that, though. That was like desperate to be
I
seen.
know the wheels are now turning
Yeah.
in my head. I'm like, oh, that actually would be really
I was like,
fun.
why would they, need that so badly from someone they, aren't so connected to? And how do you actually get under that to really get to know them under their kind of neurosis there? Karis, so
I
how do
think
you make your character feel seen and not desperate for attention?
I think sometimes it's having the other character see them in unguarded moments. For both of these people, it's the one character watching the other interact with either their associates, their assistants in the restaurant and the shop, or with family. And the other person doesn't really know that they're being seen. And so the person seeing can see a real honest, I said that word too many times now, but gets to see a real honest version of that. And so I like those moments when they're kind of being witnessed, being their true selves.
Yeah, there's not a sense of like performance about it or knowing that you're being watched, but just living their everyday life.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Jenna.
Yeah, I really loved everything Karis was saying there about unguarded moments and that kind of authenticity of just being around someone. But yeah, I've got like a lot of hangover thoughts from being on a panel yesterday about conflict. And yeah, I think a lot of things that we introduce as writers are about creating reasons why they don't get together instantly at the start of a romance story. And that could be because of the character hangups, or it could be because of something going on in the story. I kind of played about with writing out of having Casey be not a desperate character, but someone who was quite keen to be, why don't we just hook up? Why don't we just get together? Like from the jump.
Yeah.
And having other reasons personally that they wouldn't then want to do that. And that she herself wouldn't actually keep to that after the first few chapters. And also external conflicts going on, external story reasons why that wasn't going to be the case. And I think the fun part is readers of romance novels is wanting to root for characters to have that happy ending, even though there's other things in the way sometimes. So
Mhm.
it's okay for them to be desperate, but maybe that's not the only thing going on. Like they're desperate, but they're also mad at them about something. So other things could be going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really true. Like I think we all have that fear, right? Like we really want to be known, but we're also terrified of being known because what if we get rejected? For any various reasons. So I think that's a really great point. All right. For you as a writer, if we're talking about emotional intimacy, what is more intimate? A deep personal confession or kind of what Karis was talking about in terms of like everyday vulnerability? Which one do you lean more towards in your writing? Which one do you feel is going to lend that more sense of, she gets me, she understands me? Who has not gone first yet? I think everybody. So we'll go with Karis again.
There is kind of an exact scene of that in this book, but I don't want to say it because it's kind of spoilery because it's kind of later. But it's definitely when someone recognizes how this person is in everyday life, what bothers them, what they like, what they appreciate, and just kind of naturally responds to that. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I want to do the dishes before I go to bed. Okay, I'll do that with you, or you just kind of suggest it yourself. It's just that kind of I think the everyday life and seeing how you'll fit in with this person forever in real life, not just in this romantic setting. So definitely real life stuff.
Real life.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jane, of all the readings, I think yours was kind of the more of the intimate confession variety. What would you say in your writing? Do you lean more towards those kinds of confessions or more towards the everyday vulnerabilities?
I mean, there's always a bit of both, right? Like for sure, these characters they're encountering each other all the time, these social engagements, and so as they encounter each other, they are getting a little more vulnerable or having these unexpected moments of understanding or kinship, kind of like, you're two people in a big crowd, and sometimes that feels very intimate. So there are like little details like that throughout my books, but I gotta say, I do lean into the big soapy confession. I love like the bit where they're finally in private, like they've been at all these social engagements, and then like they find a moment together and they're like, okay, but really though, really, like how do you feel? Because are you feeling the same as me? Because they can't say those things in public. They can only really say them in private. So I do love like those big moments, especially if the characters have maybe been drinking a little bit, or maybe they're about to have sex. Like you really, you really get them in there, and it's great.
Absolutely. Read Regencies for the drinking and the sex because
There you go.
they're a lot more scandalous than you would anticipate. And Jenna, how about you? The big confession or the everyday vulnerability?
Yeah, I'm with Jane. I think you can't beat the big soap opera confession, but I do also think it does depend on the character. Like I think it's always nice when it's like a kind of one of each. Like one character isn't as good at words, so they're or isn't always telling the truth, so it's a big deal when they finally have that big moment and they say all the words and all the right words and are able to, or maybe have a problem with saying I love you and they're finally able to do that at the end, and that's huge. But for another character it might be, or for the character who's bad at saying expressing love, they also might be bad at recognizing it. So it might mean more to that character to see another character just being there in like small acts of love and finally learning to trust, oh, that's what that means, rather than they might not be convinced by a big soap opera chat because that's not what they need to hear. But they do need to see someone showing up for them as maybe someone had never shown up for them before. So yeah, I think character depending a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good point that it's character dependent and maybe not so much writer dependent. So great point there. All right, we just have a couple of minutes left. So I'm gonna have you all plug your books. I'm going to have you show us your book or tell us the title and just say, if you like books about blah, 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 you're going to love this book. So Jenna, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so if you like books about people melting semi-ice queens' hearts and a friends to lovers story that's a bit cozy, that also has a bit of a rivals or annoyances to lovers situation going on, and you like movies, it's a lot about movies. There's a movie on the cover. And yeah, this book is for you. It's about hanging out, and it's about kind of sorry, my dog keeps trying to be involved, and I don't know what he's asking for, but he won't come down. There is also a dog in the book, and so if you like dogs, if you, that made you go, oh, please read the book.
And what's your dog's name?
This is Beaker. He's my very old dog. He's 15, so he thinks he's old enough to be talking.
We love Beaker. All right, Karis, how about you? If you love, you will love my book.
I think if you love holiday movies or that type of story where it's kind of connected to a bustling holiday season, anything with food and chocolate in it, it will make you hungry when you read it. Yeah, and also like the small town, someone comes to a small town and has to see how they fit in. I like that too. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. And Jane.
So my book is The Debutante Dilemma. If you love soap operas, if you love Bridgerton, if you love ladies in big poofy dresses and reading about taking those big poofy dresses off, what do they have underneath there, then you will like this book.
That's perfect. Thank you all so much. This was fun. Please find the links to all these great books in the chats. Check them out. We do have a sale running. All our 2025 books through March of 2026 are on sale through the end of the weekend. Thank you all so much for being here. Fabulous readings. Please join us in just a few minutes for our next panel, The Pining and the Payoff, which is all about slow burn romance. We'll see you there. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.